Ladies and gentlemen, get your twin sets of CCRs ready because we have an incredibly inspiring guest joining us today. She's the mastermind behind some of the world's leading diving and freediving programs. She is the fearless leader of one of the biggest diving agencies in the world, the one and only Stephanie Carney. Arguably the real brains behind the ITI organization and the proud partner and wife of Brian Carney, who together man, or is that woman, at the helm of the largest technical training organization in the world. Now, not only has she spent the last 25 years developing cutting-edge scuba, freediving, emergency response programs, but she's also the mastermind behind diving headfirst into helping others achieve their goals as well. Now, among her many honors, including having been inducted into the Women Divers Hall of Fame. So let's dive right in and learn more about the woman who's dedicated her life to teaching others how to safely explore our underwater world. We have some seriously valuable insights coming your way, so make sure to watch all the way to the end. And hey, while you're at it, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and that bell for future notifications. Trust us, you're not going to want to miss any of the oceanic goodness we have in store for you. Now again, my name is Benjamin Hadfield. I'm a technical diving instructor with Teach Me to Dive, connecting divers with quality instructors, dive shops, dive locations, and dive agencies for training around the world for quality dive information and education. Let's give a big splashy welcome to Stephanie and get ready to dive into the deep end of the ocean with this interview. Thank you so much for joining us today, Stephanie. I really appreciate you.
Of course. Thank you for having me.
So let's just jump right into the deep end here with you. How did you get started in diving?
I started diving way back in 1997. I took a course at my local university for part of my major. And the university is the University of Rhode Island. And I was a marine law student and just thought it would be a great complement to what I was studying in school, which was coastal zone law and various economic pieces to the marine industry. And actually just wanted to see what was underwater. And that's how I started. So at university.
That's fantastic. I think there's a lot of people that started that. They were just curious, or in my case, it was the free class that got me out of my major and got me relaxing and doing anything other than what I was doing. So I get that. So how did you get started in the industry though?
The industry, well, when I took that class, I was a junior and I had one more year of school left, and then I was planning on law school. I had then met the diving safety officer. He taught my class, and long story short, I asked him out and ended up marrying him. And long story short, he was working for Uvatech at the time. It was a dive computer company in the 90s, the late 90s, and it was based in Maine. And when I was traveling back and forth to see Brian, he was very integrated with Brett Gillum, who at that point owned TDI. And in meeting Brett and talking to Brett just on weekends, he offered me a job when I graduated from college and said it might be a great idea to defer law school, get some real life experience. And he wanted to teach me business and negotiate his contracts overseas while gaining experience and kind of putting some money in the bank to pay for law school. So that's how I started with TDI. I started with TDI in 1998, and then Brett and I hired Brian in 1999. And that's how we started our trajectory.
That's fantastic. So you've got an amazing career of making sure that you're mentoring young divers and other people within the industry. What's been the most rewarding experience you've had as a mentor?
As a mentor, the mentorship kind of goes back many years. And I had an original mentor, and his name was Cliff Simino. Those people that have been in the industry for a long time know Cliff. He has since passed, unfortunately, but he was always a pay it forward kind of guy. And anything throughout my mentorships, interwoven is that pay it forward mentality. So my most rewarding part of mentorship is seeing the people that I try and help to pay it forward. So it's kind of continuing Cliff's legacy.
That's fantastic. Have you got an individual story of somebody that you've helped mentor that's been wildly successful at this point now?
Yes. And I'm going to brag on him a little bit. Within our company, I really try and help the younger staff out. And whether it be words of advice, teaching them what I know. And there's one in particular that stands out, and he actually is now our uh, national sales manager, and he came up through the ranks. I would like to think that I taught him quite a bit about maybe business acumen, reading the room, how to position yourself depending upon how you want to sell something, and or kind of life skills. So life skills in a way of protecting your peace in a way and figuring out who your tribe is and sticking to that tribe. So his name is Jesse, and um, I am work mom. So and
Work mom.
I'm work mom, and so yeah, I'm quite proud of what he has been able to accomplish in a short amount of time with us at ITI.
That's fantastic. So you got certified quite a bit ago. You joined ITI in '98. How do you feel this diving industry has changed over the years, and what challenges have you faced as a training agency owner?
The diving industry, I think, has seen many versions of itself, if you will, moving forward through the decades, and utilizing technology and understanding more about human physiology when it's subjected to pressure underwater, and making gear more streamlined, safer. The introduction of rebreathers into the market. I way back was on an SCR Draker Dolphin and Ray, which that just kind of dates me there. But it's amazing to see the advances in the love of the sport, the safety of the sport, and obviously with social media and awareness globally, just bringing and making this sport more accessible to those that never really thought to try it. And as a training agency, it's it's been a wild ride. We started super small. It was just TDI. So bringing on the other brands was a labor of love. And anybody that has been with the company for a while will completely understand that. In competing in a very competitive marketing space or space in general is tough, but the other agencies, they do a good job. They they market well, they sell well. So just carving out a special place for us in the market was um, was a challenge, but it was also necessary and needed. So that's my little tidbit.
We've done a fantastic job, and ITI is definitely an amazing organization, that's for sure, with its hands in a lot of different pots, for sure.
Yes.
Luckily, in preparing for this interview, I always want to make sure that I'm hitting all the aspects that I can, especially talking to somebody as amazing as you. So I reached out to some of our friends on our side and some people that you know as well, and I said, what would you ask? What would you've got Stephanie here. She's super amazing, a mentor, an icon in the industry, accolades for days. And I said, what would you ask? So throughout this interview, I'm going to interject a few of those. And so Jenny Branchflower, who is a dive shop owner in Boise, Idaho, she wanted to ask you, what is being done to help daily to help introduce more women into diving?
Well, daily, you'll see on our the best way to reach people is right now social media and word of mouth. So
Hmm.
people see, if you see somebody that looks like you doing something that you might consider doing, I feel like people are more apt to do that. So I don't know if you have been able to see the women in tech diving segments that we've been doing with TDI. That is a particular market that has been very void of women, which I don't, I can understand, but I can't understand it. So I'm trying to bring, or we are trying to bring more awareness to that. And our brand manager, Juan, is in charge of that TDI handle, and I've got to say he's done an amazing job with bringing women into the technical world visually. We've always been there, but it's never really been put out there. So we're really being conscious of our messages, what our photography looks like, our manuals moving forward. So I think that is what we try to do on a daily basis, and just reaching out and talking to people and asking why not? So that I know it's kind of a vague answer, but every little thing we do is towards being more of an inclusive sport because it hasn't been.
Now, I caught a message that you responded to on social media, and it kind of struck me a little bit. I had never thought about that, and the problem is the reason I hadn't thought about it is because the message was geared, or sounded like it was geared towards me. I'm a middle-aged white guy, right? So, but you recently asked, why do all training manuals sound like they're talking to middle-aged guys? What are you doing to change this? I really enjoyed your answer to this. If you wouldn't mind sharing that with us.
Um, yes, the person who wrote in was 1,000% correct. It's written with a certain person, gender in mind, which I think is incorrect. And I've always thought that. And I fought this battle years ago. And it's funny that this kind of came back around, but this was before I owned the company. Um, the manuals were always written for men, and there weren't a lot of people that looked like me um, that were doing the sport. So I really made a conscious effort to try and erase all of that from our texts. Nobody's perfect. We do miss occasionally errors of the past, but anytime something like that comes up, it goes into our banks of re-edits. So when that advanced nitrox decompression suite comes up for edit, the you can bet your bottom dollar those pronouns will be changed, because it doesn't help anything, and it presents the same message irrespective of what pronoun you use. You're getting the message across, and you can be inclusive. Why not?
Absolutely. I appreciate that. That's all I would ever hope. I've like you, and your husband, my wife and I are divers, and we're our best buddy team. But there's been once I've seen my beautiful wife standing on a dive boat, slinging twins in a deco bottle, and she's among 18 other guys in that process, or going through the training with her, and everything felt like they were talking to me, but missing her completely. And I always want to make sure that she was part of that conversation in an equal and dynamic way, as same as me. So I appreciate that you're taking that into account, and that you've noticed that, as well as that you're doing something to strive to change that. So that's awesome. Thank you
Oh,
so much.
thanks.
So another one of our instructors, Ashley from Idaho Falls, where I live, she asked
Ah,
a fairly interesting question, in that without compromising standards, are women's unique physical abilities being taken into account? An example, technical training. The average female may have trouble lifting double, manipulating the skills for side mount, such as properly placing their tanks on the harness. So, and without having to go to smaller tanks.
well, we don't compromise the standards with that. However, there are so many different gear configurations that are available now that weren't before. So I'm 4'10", and I have worn doubles before. Is it easy? No. It Once you get in the water, does it kind of even out? Yes. It's just kind of getting to the water, being able to isolate, all of that jazz. There's no changing in the standards for a female or a male's body, but figuring out how to configure your gear and trying and doing all sorts of testing with it is what we try and promote. The gear has come a long way. There are so many different types of adaptations that you can do to the back plates, the wings. There are different areas where you can clip off. They've made it so much more accessible. So the big thing in that, and I wanted to hit on it, was the training that you have to do. That there, I've come across this misconception that diving is not a sport. I've heard that multiple times, and you need to be in physical shape to dive. You want to be. You want to be able to enjoy this. You want to be safe. You want your buddy to be safe. So when I'm learning something new or doing something new underwater, I'm training for it. I lift, I run, I do everything I possibly can to make myself safer underwater and be able to do those manipulations of the gear as needed, and be able to pick up the damn tanks because they are heavy.
I like that you threw that in there, because that's the exact term I use for my twin hundreds is damn tanks.
Oh, yeah. Yes. Yes.
And I think there's been more than once that, while we would never admit it, I guess that we're getting ready to admit it, that we've done the crawl of shame on a shore dive.
100%. 100%. Yes. The crawl and fall flat and wait a second, and then crawl and fall flat and wait a second. Yes. Done that multiple times.
And it's good to hear somebody else admit that as well publicly, because I always feel a little sad having to admit it, but I'm like, you know what? We're all human. And what I enjoyed through this channel is learning that everybody at your level is still humble and still learning and still growing and still willing to admit that, hey, I'm not perfect. So thank you for being willing to admit that we're all the same.
Oh, yeah. Yes.
Tossing the fins on shore. I get it.
Oh, oh yes. I have been that person looking like a flopping fish on a dive boat. I've been there. Everybody has been there. So
Absolutely.
yeah.
Nobody's born as an Ed
No.
Sorensen. Ed Sorensen wasn't born Ed Sorensen. He got there too, right? So,
Yes.
so another question. This is from Jenna Turner, and I liked this as well. What would you tell yourself as a baby diver or as a young diver?
As a young diver, I would tell myself to ignore the noise. There's especially now seeing the baby divers, they're so proud when they post their stuff on social media and to show off their friends to their friends and try and join a community only to be smacked down by some random person online that believes that they are the scuba police, if you will.
Sure.
I would tell that baby diver to cut the noise out, follow their own path and learn, find different people to learn from, find different instructors, find the different mentors. And the people that are creating noise, they exit stage right.
That's probably one of the toughest things with social media, especially being in the public eye, is there's a lot of trolls out there. So,
Yes.
and that brings up to a really great question that I'd like to segue to. Christina Donato is obviously one of both of our heroes. She's absolutely amazing, and she came up with an extremely insightful question, I thought at least.
Sure.
What was the loudest doubt you heard in your head as you moved forward with your plans, and what did you do to quiet those down?
I the loudest doubt was my own doubt. It was my own doubt in my head telling me I'm not worthy. I don't. Why me? Why is this? Why is this happening? I don't do I don't deserve it. And the quieting down part of it came from friends and family, especially Brian. Brian was my biggest cheerleader in all of this. And that why not me? Why not? The universe put this opportunity in front of me for a reason. And it would be inappropriate for me to not take that chance and to move forward because I don't know who else I could potentially be helping or giving that extra little nudge to maybe try something. Because I don't come from a business background. This was not something I learned in university. And my growing up, my parents were not business people. That was not their trade. So this was a lot of learning on the job and making 1,000 mistakes, and I still make mistakes daily. But to quiet that down, the support of my close family and friends, my tribe, that helped.
That is awesome, and I've noticed that term popping up more often, and it's a term that I use as well as I mentor divers up to become where I'm at. We call it the tribe, and I think that's probably
Mhm.
the best description of what we really are as a scuba community. We're not really a
Yes,
community. We're not a club. We're a tribe.
we
It's
are.
probably the best thing. That is fantastic. So you've got a real knack and a name in the industry for being an amazing mentor. How do you approach mentoring and supporting women who are just starting out in diving?
I think mentoring is listening. I really feel that in this day and age we don't listen. People like to hear themselves talk. Um, they pontificate on all sorts of different topics, but if you really truly listened to what somebody was asking or where they needed help in particular places, that I believe is the cornerstone of being a mentor. And mentoring women in the industry, providing an ear, being accessible and available. Uh, my email, you can pop my email up on how you put in post, and
Mhm.
people should feel free to contact me. I think creating those webs and those um, chains of connection. So if I can't provide help, I know somebody who can. And there are so many of us that are kind of behind the scenes, just being each other's cheerleader and grabbing them up by their bootstraps when they fail. And um, mentoring and being accessible and being a good listener, I think, are what people need. And that, in my opinion, is mentorship.
That's awesome. That's something I noticed in your my interview with your husband as well, is that he was about the listening, and there was several portions of the communication where he came up, and I love that united message that you have, that it's not just about listening to the people above me, the people next to me, but at the people below me and people all around me. One of my favorite stories that I talked to Brian about was, he said there was a failure in the standards on a training that he had done, and a young student or a young employee had come to you and said, "What do I do?" You feel like telling us about that?
Oh, that was that was fun. Actually, anybody anybody that knows me, I don't cut corners, and I the standards are the standards, and they're there for a reason. So Brian violated standards. He is clear as day. He didn't mean to. He didn't realize it. But the young staff member came to me and just kind of put this on my desk and said, "Well, what do I do?" You initiate a quality assurance. He's not above anybody else, and nor am I. So he will learn from this. You will learn from this, and the entire company will learn from this. So do we laugh about it? Absolutely. And but it's a nice story, and it's a good story to realize that nobody's perfect and we all make mistakes, just as long as we learn from them. So
That's
that
wonderful.
was the day.
I think the other part that I love, that's all I love all that. There's the other part is that that person is still with the company and has done very well with the company.
Yes, he has. Yes. He is a very sharp and bright individual, and has really come into his own and taken charge of where he wants to be in the industry. And it's really nice to kind of see his journey and play a small part in it. So yeah, he is. That was many, many years ago too. So we do laugh about it quite often.
That is awesome. I think in that consideration, as you're the junior employee, you're like, oh my goodness, if I take this in, Stephanie says I got to take it to Brian, and I've got to call him on it. But wait a minute, he's the boss, and you worry about the length of your career at that point. So
Yeah,
good for you, for keeping him and encouraging him and moving him through that, because that's a tough thing for both sides.
it is. It is. And I applaud that individual's gumption to do that, because some people wouldn't, but it's kudos to him.
So Stephanie, we all fail and succeed. Can you tell me about time when you failed, and how did you handle that?
Oh God, there's so many. Let's see. I we failed. Oh God, I'm trying to think of one of the in diving or in life in general.
In life or in business or with ITI?
Okay, in life in general, I am a proud mom of a teenager, and a recent fail was he he has been trying my son has been trying to gain more responsibility, because in about 6 months he will be able to qualify for his learner's permit to drive a car. And we've been talking a lot about responsibility, making his own lunch for school, making his own dinner, washing his clothes, all of that we've been weaving that in as he's kind of age appropriate. And
Mhm.
the other day I caught myself and I just kind of made his lunch, and he looked at me and he's like, "Mom, how am I ever going to learn responsibility if you do this for me? You can't keep doing this for me. You're failing me as a mom." And you just kind of you get broadsided by that. But he's right. I'm failing him by doing these things for him. Even though as his mom, I would like to be able to do this for him, that was a big wake up for me. For him to say those words to me, then take the lunch, unpack it, repack it, and put it in the refrigerator along with notes around the house saying, I can do this. That was a hard one for me.
Oh, sure.
Hmm.
Get that completely.
Yeah.
So, Stephanie, our industry is really it's about risk and risk management, truthfully.
Yes.
So, tell us about the biggest risk you've taken in business thus far, and how you succeeded or failed in that.
The biggest risk I've taken by far is purchasing the company. That was in 2004. That was a gigantic risk, and we leveraged everything we had, and I was 25 at the time. I didn't realize what I was getting. I realized what I was getting into, but I didn't realize the magnification of what I was getting into. I learned very fast that I'm the last one to get paid, and that's still my ethos to this day. That Brian and I are the last ones to get paid. Period. And my decisions not only affect my livelihood and my family, but they affect the families that put their trust in me to make solid decisions and their families. And that's a big responsibility to take as a business owner, to have that trust put in me and for me not to screw it up. So that's the biggest risk I've taken thus far, is to purchase the company and then manage it through 08, manage it through COVID. It's been a masterclass in like a business shit show, if you will. It's you can't think tank this stuff up. But it sharpens you as a human, and you feel those strings of empathy, because you lead with empathy and you reinforce with precision. And that is how I try to run the company.
I like that a lot. Lead with empathy. I like that. I like that a
Yeah.
lot. I'm going to steal that if that's okay.
Yeah, sure.
So, you bought the company at 25. I mean,
Yes.
that in and of itself, to buy a major dive agency, and that time it wasn't nearly what it is today. You've done a
No.
fantastic job riding the reins of that, and taking it there. But it's a dive agency. That's not a small thing. It's not like a dive shop. Now all of a sudden you're setting the standards. You're setting the way things are being done, and you're 25. That's an amazing.
According to OpenTable, Jaker's Bar and Grill, Idaho Falls, on leading board
Oh,
has
apparently Alexa wanted to chime in as well, so we're just going to unplug her. So at 25, you've made this major commitment. I mean, that's a very young age to do that. Have you faced any resistance or pushback from males, colleagues, and competitors in the industry? And that, by the way, that's from Janine Sproul, who's an instructor in Oregon.
Um, Colleagues, no. I work with a fantastic group of men that have been supportive since day one. And some of them came on when we purchased it and are still with us. So there's a solid group of us that have worked together for over 16 years. And they've never once, in any way, shape, or form, looked at me differently. Competitors in my space, yes. But I don't know who said it, but you can't fix stupid. And if
John Wayne.
John Wayne, yes, can't fix stupid. And if they choose to conduct themselves like that, that is their choice. My choice is how I let what they say and what they do affect me. And there's one quote that I have taken with me since I've heard it. And it was, nobody can make you feel inferior without your permission. And that's from the Princess Diaries movie.
Yep, Eleanor Roosevelt.
That I heard it there, and I'm thinking, that's so true. It's so true. But as a young adult, that is very hard to conceptualize and enact, I think, because there are all sorts of pressures. But as firmly in my 40s, that is my day to day. It's my choice.
Absolutely. That's fantastic. Now, we didn't really have to touch on it. I mean, I notice in training, so my wife teaches and I teach. I watch how she approaches things and students, and I watch how I approach certain students. And we found that there's certainly strengths that I have that she doesn't have, and there's certainly strengths that she has that I don't have. Have you noticed a difference in the ways that men and women approach training and diving?
Yes and no. I really think it's an individual thing because it's based on the person's personality. Sometimes they will approach people with maybe a softer tone, and it could be male or female. And sometimes they approach it with more of a brisk and efficient tone, and that can be male or female. And I think the true professional figures out, they read the room, they read their student, they read what that student needs at that point in time, and they meet them where they're at, whether it be brisk, whether it be with empathy, and they change accordingly. And that can be with men or women, it doesn't matter. So to answer your question, yes, I've seen them approach it differently, but I don't think it's particular to any gender. I think it's individualized.
Fair enough. Absolutely. Can't ask for more than that. And you're absolutely right. As we as individuals certainly approach things differently. I have instructors that work for me that definitely approach things in a softer, gentler tone. And I've got an instructor that I work with that is a drill sergeant when it comes to stress and rescue. And he gets results, and I can't fault him for that. But that when I teach stress and rescue, that's not my tact. I would rather teach stress through the situation, not because I'm a drill sergeant. So
Yeah,
I think that's the way. I think that's a great way to do that, and taking the gender out of the communication and understanding that we are all individuals. Good job.
thanks.
Can you talk to me about the importance of networking and community and building a community in the dive industry?
I like we had mentioned that word tribe. Your community is your tribe, and building that community is important. But it's also important to not only build a community, a large community, but it's building smaller communities. It's building communities based on interests, based on maybe helping wounded veterans, maybe environmental causes, but building those tribes and then maybe interconnecting those tribes and communities for a larger collective. So I think community and networking is very important. Being social in diving clubs can be fun. It's a great way to meet new people, new dive buddies, learn something different. Joining those social media groups, girls that tech dive, women that dive, women that tech dive. Those groups are great, and they provide a sense of community, and it can be an extremely supportive space to ask questions that you might normally not want to ask and meet friends.
Absolutely. There's no closer friend in the world than somebody sitting next to you on a dive boat.
Yes. Oh, yes.
Now, can you tell me about any specific initiatives or programs that you've developed personally to support younger divers and women divers in the industry?
Yes, I can. I in about what's the date? In about 6 weeks, we're going to be announcing something, and it's something that I have personally worked on for the better part of 2 decades. It's something I've always wanted to do, and the past 18 months have been pouring blood, sweat, tears, and getting volunteers to launch this. So you will see in June my project. It's not only mine, but it's something that I have spearheaded and I've taken under my wing to initiate and launch. So that will be big. I can't spill the beans yet, but 6 weeks, you'll see something popping out. So I'm proud of that. And that
I'm
will
excited for you
hit
to would like.
many avenues. Yes.
So unfortunately, I believe your husband may have already spilled the beans on me in his interview. He did. He did. So we had that exclusive on his interview, and we're very excited. We know what it is. I'll leave it at that. That you have to go watch all of Brian's interview if you
Yes.
want
There
to
you
know
go. There you go.
more. But
Brian spilled the beans. Yes.
it is a super exciting initiative, and
Yes.
we want to make sure that we're taking into account can we individuals support this initiative that you're getting ready to come out with.
Oh, telling other people that this exists, and not that it exists, but the true why behind it. And we're not venture capital. We are small business, if you will. So this is very transparent. Everybody will know where the money goes, where it's spent, and you follow along in these stories because there are some amazing individuals that are doing such good, kind of at a grassroots level, and elevating and taking their voice to the next level so that they feel levels of support and you learn from it. So what people can do is talk about it, submit ideas. We're always listening, and join us. We're gonna make some waves.
Literally.
Yes.
Pun intended, right?
Yes.
That's awesome. So along those lines, what advice do you have for people who want to advance their careers in the diving industry as a whole?
Figure out where your interests are. Identify somebody that you admire what they're doing, and learn from them if you can. Reach out to them. You never know who's willing to take on and mentor somebody. Also, careers in diving, depending upon what you want, make sure you are marketable. So always having a base knowledge in business, you can never go wrong. Understanding accounting is amazing. Money in, money out, how that flows through a company can be extremely valuable to an employer. And yourself, and understanding how to network and market yourself is also extremely important. So even if you're teaching diving, there are always different aspects that you can have specialties to support with that. Photography, business, I think is huge, but I'm quite biased because that's my space right now. That's what I live in. But when we're looking for people, when we're hiring talent, I always look to see what their extras are. Where do they excel? Do they know how to use this system or that system? That's always unique to see what else is there when you kind of peek behind the curtain.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That's a great way to go. Absolutely. So what are some of the biggest challenges you see facing the dive industry today, and how can we address them?
Well, the dive industry, if you look at it, people are using disposable income to dive. Diving is not something that is a necessity. Yes, for many people, we love diving. That's their livelihood. But for the people that have to choose where their paycheck goes to, diving is non-essential. And you have food, you have utilities, you have your car payment. So facing the diving industry is a competition from other industries, the skiing industry, the boating industry, the fishing industry. So people have a certain amount of money, and it's where their dollar goes. So facing the industry are those competitive spaces, and making sure that we as an industry are marketing ourselves correctly so that people decide to spend their money in our industry versus a different one.
Fair enough. So making sure we're retaining the clientele and giving them a good reason to spend within this industry, a why.
Correct.
So
The
building
why. Yes.
And I think that's one of the challenges I've noticed, and maybe you've noticed this as well, that a lot of dive shops that I work with and I visit, I love them with all my heart. They're just amazing people. They're passionate, but unfortunately treat it more like a club than a business. And until we get the idea that these are businesses that are not 501Cs, where you said it earlier, we're not a venture capitalist firm. We're here to do things, but we're here to make money too. And so until they're able to do that, so that's what I see at least.
Absolutely, 100%. And if the dive facilities and the instructors don't make money, at the end of the day, the training agency does not make money. Supporting those businesses and ventures is essential. And yes, people are purchasing facilities or starting their own because it's the love of a sport. And there's absolutely ways to strike balance with livelihood and your passion/hobby. So it's just figuring out how.
Absolutely. And I like your idea that maybe learning some basic accounting and then money in, money out might not be a bad idea. Some business courses. Good idea.
Yes.
I think you're absolutely onto something that too often people don't take into account, that look, this is at the end of the day, you have to put bread on the table, peanut butter ain't free.
It's not, and it's quite pricey. So,
It's gone up.
yes, it
Eggs and peanut
is.
butter are not cheap.
No, it's not. So, that those diving courses, the regulators, the BCs, we want people to purchase them, and we want that. We want them to want to do it. And so every sport and industry does.
Absolutely. No, I get it completely. So on that other side of the coin, same idea though, but what are some of those exciting developments you've seen in scuba diving right now? And how do you see them shaping our future?
Because of the space that I've been working in, I'm seeing quite a bit with conservation and ecotourism, diving for not only sport, but to make a difference, helping report data in, looking at health of reefs and species across the world. And in my time here in the industry, yes, the internet was a thing back then, but it was not what it is today. And being able to bring awareness quickly to an issue in diving is, I think, amazing. And it's exciting, the level of technological advances that we have right now in rebreathers, with gear, with manufacturing speed minus COVID and the shutdowns. But that has been very exciting to see, and more voices, different voices in the space, I think, is always essential, and it's exciting to see.
That is definitely an exciting thing. We talked about that a little bit earlier. Is certainly the challenge for the internet is the trolls, but that's kind of the neat thing about it as well. Is you get a huge community that's able to come together. I mean, look at this interview today. I mean, you're sitting in Florida, I'm sitting in Idaho, and we're having a wonderful conversation that without the internet just certainly wouldn't have been possible just only a few years ago.
Correct. Yeah.
And so we're able to move up. And I mean, I've got another friend that I talk with that does a lot of his instruction. He just did 100 and some odd divers in a science of diving class, all remotely. Unbelievable that he brought that many people together into a dive community for one class on science of
Yeah.
diving. So it's
Yeah.
amazing. It's fantastic. So with that kind of idea, where is ITI heading in the future when it comes to technology?
Oh, when it comes to technology, there are all sorts of neat things that we can and will do. A lot of our programs, the e-learning has been around for a while, and our projects and our tech is focusing and allowing more remote learning for academics and programs that we conduct worldwide, which is exciting. We launched the app. It was version 1 of the app. So additional versions will be coming out with different types of tech attached to it. And the project that I'm working on and launching in June, that Brian spilled the beans on, there are going to be different types of technology interwoven within that too.
Neat. Now, so you mentioned the app, and I love the app. I have the app on my phone. And yes, I've done a lot of classes through your organization, through Peter over at Stewart.
Oh, yeah.
We all love Peter, right? Who doesn't? Is an easier question. So, what improvements can we look forward to seeing in the app on version 2?
I think you will see quite a bit of enhancement. You will see the logbook should be in play by then. I think you will see a potential for a locator for places to dive, increasing networks. So that's stuff that we are trying to work on right now. I don't have release dates, so these are long-term strategies that we've been playing around with.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So return back to our community that we dive within and the environment. More importantly, what do you think the biggest environmental challenges are facing our oceans, and what can we as divers do to help address them?
I There are so many. I was just actually with Florida Atlantic University. We were in Nassau, Bahamas, with a project to save the queen conch, the species, and it's being overfished. And being able to find a way to strike a balance between human consumption needs and survival of the species is a really interesting balance to try and strike, because the queen conch, for example, is an iconic species, and people love to to eat it, tourists, but also locals depend upon it as a food source. So striking those balances, I think, is important. But when you take a look under the water, you're seeing reefs, the degeneration and exploitation of reefs, global warming, the rising of ocean level, it's the pollution. It's that they're all interwoven within what's happening right now. So education, I think, will help. And as divers, this is our playground. This is where we go to relax. This is where we go to have fun and be with our friends. And if that goes away, it's detrimental to the species, to humans, but our playground also goes away as well. So I think bringing awareness to that and voicing concerns and opinions to lawmakers is a great way to start.
It's a fantastic way to start, that's for sure. So my next question was going to be about what you have coming up, but we'll leave it at that. In June, you have an amazing initiative. I know what it is. I'm super excited to see this happen for you guys as well. And so we're going to make sure to utilize our platform to get that out for you.
Great.
So how about personally? I mean, you're a diver. What level of diver are you? Obviously rebreather, but where are you at in the training cycle?
Right now, I am an open water diver with my son. So that is my level right now. I have done my open water instructor. I have taught technical in the past. I have run instructor trainer workshops in the past. So I, at one point in time, was an evaluator, but it's been a very long time. So right now, I dive with my kid, and that's the best kind of diving, period.
Oh my goodness. That is amazing.
So
And that is what we should all strive to be. Some of my favorite dives are with Brittany and Brandon, and you know Brittany quite well. And my favorite picture, I have it in my living room, is my wife, my son, my daughter, and myself together it was a 40-foot dive on a reef. We just seen a turtle. We came together in our little tribe, and it's my favorite photo. It's my special memory. So good for you.
yeah,
No matter where we're at, that's what we should strive to be, is the open water diver with our family, with our dive buddy, with our spouse, and enjoy it.
yes,
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
So what's your favorite dive spot in the world?
Well, it's with my kid, Bonaire. We've been to Bonaire diving, and I enjoy those. Those shore dives are amazing. You really can't get any easier. And I have had the opportunity to visit Chuk, and those dives are fantastic and amazing. So those two are some pretty awesome highlights. But anytime in the water with my son is the best dive. So
The dive you're doing right now with the people you love.
Yes.
Love it, love it. Absolutely. So what people don't realize, I mean, you're a dives company owner. I mean, you're a training standard that sets the world standards for a lot of people. What do you bring to the table in the international stage as a woman dive agency owner?
I have been involved in the standards. Right now, I am not actively involved. I help oversee the training department, but as a female owner, I voice my opinions, but I have a staff and a team that is amazing, and they're constantly looking out for safety and taking into account divers worldwide. So I know it's kind of a roundabout way, and I really didn't answer the question. I am not. Safety is paramount, period. People need to be able to come back from their dives, and we need to provide a safe set of standards for our instructors to teach within. And we work with other training agencies to try and get on the same page with regards to what is safe, and trying to work together to increase the safety of divers, current divers, and those looking to learn how to dive is what we on the world stage are trying to do.
That's fantastic. So you're a very qualified diver. I mean, you started diving the dragger back in the day. and worked your way through I'm sure, several different rebreathers, quite a bit of standards. Tell us about your most memorable dive and what made it so special.
Most memorable dive, probably. Oh, I did a fun dive. It was kind of the mistakes we talk about.
Mm-hmm.
I think anything that could have went wrong on this dive went wrong on this dive. I was with Brian, and this was after I was obviously certified. We had been dating for a bit, and we went in Rhode Island. The water is not; it's cold, and you can't see anything. So we went for this fun dive, and the weather changed pretty quickly. And trying to get out of the water, like the flop that we spoke about, fins were lost. All my stuff, because Brian is so dialed in. I looked like a baby seal trying to figure out what was going on. It was the funniest and most fun dive I had ever done. Brian and I couldn't stop laughing. After we went to go get a beer, and we both said that we'll never forget this dive, and that was actually the most fun. It was just having fun with a buddy and just laughing at ourselves, because nobody's perfect. That's my most fun, memorable dive.
I love it. It's the competent person that can step back and realizes I can laugh at myself and we just have a great time. So I like it. I like it a lot.
Thank you.
So what are your plans for the future of ITI?
My plans are to provide a space of learning within our organization. We don't only have obviously the headquarters at HQ, but in Florida, but for the offices overseas as well. We're a tribe. We have video calls together. We're constantly communicating, but kind of enhancing that education and really getting our groove back after COVID and taking it to the next level, which is, in my opinion, having some damn fun. And otherwise, why do this? It's I think life throws challenges at you, and how you react to them can kind of shape how you move forward. And I think a lot of fun is lost. The fun is sucked out of so many different things. The way that you have to look underwater, the way that you have to jump off the boat, the way that this has to be positioned exactly correctly. You kind of take the fun out of it. And so moving forward for ITI, we're going to have fun, hopefully, and really increase our visibility in the diving world stage. And at the end of the day, make some really cool divers in the process.
Awesome. So what advice would you give somebody who's just starting out in the diving industry and wants to make a career of it and move forward?
Be a sponge. Learn as much as you can. Listen. Ask questions. Take courses from different instructors. Take courses with different agencies. See where the fundamentals are different and what aligns most to what they like as a person. SDI, TDI's philosophies might not be the philosophy for some people, and that's fine. As long as they're diving and honing in their craft, it's a diver. It's another steward of the ocean. So that would be my learn from others, different people.
That's an interesting take on it. I mean, you're an agency owner, but your advice is make sure you take it not just from my agency, but take it from other agencies as well. That's a great perspective, that we just want you to be a better diver, pay it forward. I like that.
Yes,
like
that's Cliff. Cliff Simino is it's his pay it forward. So yeah.
Absolutely. What was your favorite course you took as a diver?
I enjoyed my dry suit diving because it really made me so much more comfortable in the water. And I did it at Nubble Light off the coast of Maine. So that is a spectacular site. It's a shore dive. but you look up, when you come up, you just see Nubble Lighthouse just staring at you. It's picturesque in my point of view. There are seals hanging around, lobster. It's a really cool dive. And the dry suit, you're so much more comfortable. So yes.
I understand that completely. Living in the Northwest, the majority of my dives are dry suit.
Yes.
So we did a instructor trainer course at the Blue Grotto, and I just came out in a 5 mil, and we were planning on doing 3 days for 4 days, and the instructor said, "Don't you want a dry suit, or you're going to get cold?" I'm like, "Are you kidding, man? I'm sweating."
Oh man, yeah.
On day 4, I felt a bit of a chill, and I says, "Yeah, I think I feel a bit of that chill, but I'm still rocking and rolling. I'm good."
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
I love the dry suit. I get it completely, though. Well, Stephanie, you've been fantastic, and I appreciate you taking the time to interview with me and brought this cast out and let everybody get another chance to meet you in a little bit more public forum, as well as a little bit different forum than what you are in. So there you go. We interviewed Stephanie. She is amazing. ITI owner-operator with her husband, Brian. They do a fantastic job. Largest dive company in the world, in my opinion. Best technical dive agency in the world as well. She enlightened us on a lot of things, some women's issues a little bit, just general issues overall, and did a fantastic job with grace and courage. So I appreciate it. Stephanie, thank you for taking the time.
Thank you.